We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
The following videos are news coverage of Operation Roll Red Roll on Occupy Steubenville, along with a Steubenville rape case. Please share and enjoy.
Social media playing a major role in a teen rape case in Ohio because so much was posted about it. Two 16-year-old high school football players have been charged with sexually assaulting a 16-year-old girl last summer, and much of the event being documented and made public via Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by some of the high school students who apparently were there. I want to bring in Alexandria Goddard, a crime blogger. And Alexandria, you shed light on this story. Put it into perspective for us. You're from Steubenville.
Yes, I used to live there several years ago.
And so you decided, you basically decided to come out and write about this because you felt that with everything that was known, that it wasn't being investigated properly. Walk us through that.
Not necessarily that it wasn't being investigated properly, because I don't have knowledge of that. I'm not law enforcement, but there were things online that the local media was not presenting or hadn't found.
Now, you suggest that there were other football players who were there, that there were others who were there and did nothing to stop this. Should there be more charges brought against more of the high school players based on some of the information that you were able to see that's now been deleted? Posts, for example.
You know, again, I'm not an attorney or a prosecutor, but, you know, if there were laws broken, then yes, people should be held accountable.
Now, you were sued by a student, apparently, allegedly, who basically documented what happened. Tell us about that and tell us how it ended.
I was sued. 25 of my John Doe commenters were sued. And, you know, in my opinion, this lawsuit was brought simply to stifle free speech. And the lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice on December 27th.
Okay, and what's also interesting is apparently the student later apologized to the victim and her family for his online comment. Now,
yes.
Basically, Alexandria, we just want to tell our viewers tonight that, in fact, we haven't told people where you are. Your lawyer, Mark Randazza, represents you. He is in Las Vegas. You've received some very specific threats. And, Mark, tell us about why your client has drawn so much fire from people in Steubenville.
Because she was doing exactly what she should have done as a journalist. She was exposing wrongdoing and doing it in a time when the mainstream media was ignoring it. So she was the First Amendment in action. This is what it's there for. It is to bring sunlight upon something that needs to be exposed. So, you know, people didn't want that to happen. Steubenville itself is very upset about this case. Of course, the participants in it are very upset about it, and by participants, I don't just mean the rapists. If you watch that video, you will see that there were people standing around, there were people who witnessed it, people who documented it, did nothing. And, you know, there might be a line over which one side of this line is something that is illegal, you can be prosecuted for, but then there's still this gray area of just horrible sociopathic behavior. And she shined a light on that because it seems, from her reporting, that there is a culture of that in Steubenville, that is tolerated there. So, you know, I'm extremely proud of what she's done, but she's definitely made a lot of people angry.
And Alexandria, look, the officials of Steubenville would say, no, this is not who we are. This is not what our town is about. Do you think that the football team there is protected on some levels, that they're given a free pass to behave as they want?
From living there, their football is very important to them, and they are held on a pedestal. So in my opinion, yes.
And Alexandria, one more question, that is, you posted screenshots of photos that have now been deleted, of videos from that night. What was most horrifying to you that you saw and said, this has got to come to light?
Just the total disregard for this young lady. the lack of empathy, the lack of compassion for another human being. And when I saw all the horrible things written, that's when I made the decision that it was time to shine a light on it.
They essentially were blaming the victim, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Alexandria Goddard, thank you so much. I want to bring in Paul Callan. Don't go anywhere yet, just yet, Alexandria, but I want to bring in Paul Callan.
Okay.
He is our legal contributor. Paul, you know, what's so interesting is that the hacker group, Anonymous, has played a big role here. They're the ones who posted the video initially online for people to see. They have said they can hack into accounts and that maybe more will come out. Does this help or does this hurt the case?
Well, I think it's, of course, brought the case to public attention in a very, very graphic way. You know, what a lot of people don't realize is that this is a juvenile case, and juvenile cases are not publicized like cases that take place in adult court. So we're only getting bits and pieces of information about it. The anonymous posting drew a lot of public attention. Of course, they did state that they did illegal things like hacking into people's computers and stealing their passwords and then threatening to publish pictures and other documents that they obtained by illegal hacking. So I don't think we can encourage that kind of behavior, but on the other hand, it has cast a light on what was going on in Steubenville.
Yeah, and Paul, what's interesting also is that you heard the lawyer earlier basically say, you know, well, this is all about social media, but what's fascinating to me is that there was an active conversation going on apparently between some of the students who had been at these parties. And that's why it came to light. I mean, they themselves, whether they realized it or not, were documenting what was going on. Is that admissible evidence in court?
Well, certainly, yes. They're all witnesses to what went on in the case. They'll be key witnesses in the case. And, you know, the attorney Madison, I thought was kind of interesting when you were asking him questions about the picture. And he says it's taken out of context. Well, I don't know how it could be taken out of context unless unless the young woman is a very heavy sleeper and she's being moved from place to place, because she certainly looks intoxicated. And if one is intoxicated and then is subject to sexual conduct under Ohio law, that's rape. You were asking the question, and we focused on the other attorney, by the way, saying that a text message had been sent from the victim saying that she hadn't been raped. And I think what you're going to hear prosecutors say is a lot of people don't realize that the definition of rape is not sexual intercourse by forcible compulsion, which is how we normally think of it. It can be various kinds of sexual contact. And the girl may not have thought that she was raped. She may be applying sort of an old-fashioned definition to it in her text, as opposed to a lawyer's definition. So we have to see how the facts turn out in the case before we can say that text will help the defense or not.
Yeah, what the meaning is, or what the meaning is not, for that matter.
Exactly.
Alexandria, you have shed a lot of light on this. Do you have any regrets, either personal or professional?
No, not at all. I'm overwhelmed at the response, and I'm glad other people are asking questions. That was my intention.
All right, Alexandria Goddard, Mark Randazza, and our own Paul Callan, thanks so much. We really appreciate your helping us shed light on this conversation. Thank you. Well, how does something like this happen? What goes through the minds of young men who do or who are accused of doing terrible things? A forensic psychologist and our own Dr. Drapinski. Stay with us. A social media avalanche descended on a 16-year-old girl at the center of an alleged rape case. For months, the teen's chilling story plus photos have been discussed, dissected on social media worldwide. Photos showing her in an incredibly vulnerable state tweeted around the globe. Her family's attorney says the teen is getting counseling and doing as well as one can expect. Let's bring in Dr. Cheryl Arrett, who has worked with sexual assault victims. And Dr. Arrett, if you could talk to this 16-year-old girl, how would you tell her how would you help her cope with what she's dealing with?
Well, Deborah, I think the most important thing I would want to say to her loud and clear is that rape is never, ever the victim's fault. What happened to her was not her fault. And that's a really important thing, especially when you are growing up in an environment that has such a high tolerance for rape myths and for blaming the victim. We have to remember how very important football is in this community. And football is about taking without permission, overwhelming resistance, and taking without consent. And I think it's very easy in that kind of environment on the field to have that spill over and create a high level of tolerance in the community. So what I would say to her is, first of all, she can heal from this. It is not her fault, and she needs to be around people who can really work with her to help her overcome what she's experienced and rebuild her life.
What is so fascinating to me is the fact that people took pictures, that they discussed it, that they were tweeting about it, that they were having conversations, via Instagram and Facebook. There was a sense that this was all a big joke, that they were allowed to do this, they were okay to do this. Is that part of the culture, or is it very possible they were so drunk they didn't know what they were doing?
It would be tempting to think of it as just being too intoxicated to realize what they were doing, but I think they realized very clearly what they're doing, that this is consistent with a way of thinking. We think about rape very differently than we think about other kinds of crimes. If you look at mugging, for example, we don't ask whether it was the victim's fault because he might have been wearing a watch that some other guy felt tempted by, or what was he doing walking at that hour, or had he ever given money away voluntarily in the past. And yet when we're looking at rape, we ask, was she ever sexually active? How do we know that she didn't consent to this? We have all these special rules that really serve to demean and further victimize the victim, and not looking at this as a human rights issue, which I think it really is.
Okay, and we have an expert also, another expert with us tonight, Dr. Drew Pinsky, host of HLN's Dr. Drew's On Call. And I'm going to ask you about the character of these boys and what it tells us about what happened, but we're going to do that after the break, so both of you stay with us. We've been talking about this terrible story out of Ohio and the 16-year-old girl at the center of an alleged rape case. Also, the young men accused of this crime. We want to reiterate that they are innocent until proven guilty. Let me bring in again Dr. Cheryl Arrett, who's worked with sexual assault victims, and Dr. Drew Pinsky. And Dr. Drew, let me ask you this. What's disturbing is the fact that there was enough wherewithal for these young men to tape what was going on, to record, to document, to take photos. Right. What was their mentality? What was going on in their minds? There was nothing going on.
Well, Deborah, here's the deal. I think we all of your viewers need to step back and take this away from a small town in Ohio and think about what is happening to our youth more globally. This is about kids, morality, the capacity for empathy. That girl, the most disturbing part of this was that 12-minute videotape that was aired where the kids are laughing about the young lady being dead. There it is alongside of me right now. She was no more a person dead than she was alive. This is the objectification of women, and I don't think we should be surprised, given what rains down on young people from the internet, pornography, the way they act out in social media. They act out on one another as though they are simply objects. And we must counter-parent this actively. If we don't, this could be our kids. That's the reality. And the big other warning here is, by the way, Deborah, is alcohol. Every unwanted outcome you can measure with adolescents, you find alcohol and drugs. Whether it is sexual conduct that's unwanted, whether it's an STD or a pregnancy, you find alcohol. And if adults were involved in the use of alcohol with these kids, they should be held accountable. It's rumor that they were, but it's strictly rumor at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a rumor that there was underage drinking, and that this girl, in fact, had so much to drink that she had passed out at one point.
Well,
but something that you
Deborah,
say.
I'm going to stop you. I got to stop you though. The fact that she passed out does not make her a candidate for rape. In California, if you have a very small amount of alcohol, you are not considered able to render consent. I find it stunning that in Ohio, maybe they need to revisit their laws, that being conscious, according to the attorney you were speaking to, Mr. Callan, conscious, making decisions, and speaking makes somebody sufficiently sober to be able to render consent, and that is a problem. That's something that Ohio needs to look at, and every state should look at that.
Yeah, and Dr. Joe, what about accountability? Let's talk about that, because again, this goes to the point that you were sort of raising, which is, there's no empathy, there's no sort of ability to gauge right from wrong. Accountability, they're posting pictures, they're talking about this, they are implicating themselves, they are essentially making themselves character witnesses to what went on.
But again, these are kids, and as kids, we don't revalue, and Cheryl will agree with me on this. Whenever we evaluate kids, we evaluate the kids and the parents. That's the unit. That's the patient, is kids and the parent together. And if the kids are behaving in ways that are suggestive that they don't understand right from wrong, they don't understand they're implicating themselves, they don't understand the impact they're having, because, so again, the social media gives them some distance from what they're doing and makes it seem like, well, this is all in fun, this is a joke, this is where we do things that are fun, when in fact people's lives are permanently, potentially affected by the behavior on the internet. Perhaps, we may find out, because we don't know this yet, perhaps more so than in the flesh.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And look, this may be a case where, with all the pictures, people are not going to be able to sort of say what was going on there because maybe they were so drunk. But let me ask you this, Cheryl, what about the character of the girl? Because you know that defense attorneys are going to go after her and go after her in a big way. If she had so much to drink, if there was alcohol there, that she passed out. Talk to me about that, because it's really so upsetting to see this young girl in a T-shirt and shorts sort of being dragged by these two young men. So what about a potential character assassination of her?
That her character is even an issue is absolutely appalling. I want to say, I think it's really important that people like Dr. Drew are here tonight as men talking about how boys have to look at their behavior as well as girls. The idea that we're looking at her character at all, I know in California there are rape shield laws where you're not allowed to make a rape victim's character an issue. But think about this, regardless of someone's character. And from what I understand, she was an athlete and a scholar and an A student in a religious school. But even if a victim didn't have impeccable character, should that mean that a man or boy can rape with impunity? I mean, when we think about
Cheryl, I'll
why
go one
isn't
step
the default?
further. I'll go one step further. Let's say this is the beginning of alcoholism in this poor young girl. Shouldn't she then even be more protected because she has a condition that put her at risk of behavioral choices that might be a detriment to her? We should be even protecting her perhaps further, as opposed to even contemplating a character assassination. That's the most you could say, is there's a substance thing here that maybe put her at risk, and maybe it was teen acting out. Maybe there's a more serious problem here, and we should feel, again, empathy for this young girl and not disdain.
Yeah, maybe she made a choice that she came to regret. Maybe she picked up a drink and had it and all of a sudden was not able to control what she did. Again, we don't know what the outcome of this is going to be, what prosecutors are actually going to be able to prove. But looking at those pictures, there's something extremely disturbing about the potential violation that took place there that night. All right, Dr. Drew Pinsky and Cheryl Aretz, thank you both so much for an engaging conversation. We appreciate it.
For the second weekend in a row, protesters have turned out in Steubenville, Ohio, angry over the suspected rape of a 16-year-old girl by two high school football players. Police tell us between 1,500 and 2,000 demonstrators descended on Steubenville, demanding justice. But as Elaine Quijano reports, defense lawyers say it's their clients who are being smeared.
Hundreds of demonstrators turned out in Steubenville, Ohio, to protest the handling of a rape case that has sharply divided their community. The two football players, Malik Richmond and Trent Mays, were photographed at a party last August, carrying what appeared to be the unconscious victim. Prosecutor Marianne Hemmeter.
They knew she was in that position, and they kept going. She was a toy to them that night. She was treated like a toy that night.
Internet activists, including the online group Anonymous, have taken up the cause, making public a torrent of now-deleted social media posts and this video of a teen talking about the alleged assault.
Trent and Malik raped someone.
Steubenville police and city officials launched a website of their own today to, quote, disseminate the most accurate information about the case. Malik Richmond's defense attorney, Walter Madison, says his client has been smeared by social media.
You have individuals with anonymous usernames, and they say and do anything without any accountability. And the accountability being absent, there is an absence of reliability.
Madison told CBS News by phone today that Trent Mays received a text message from the girl just days after the alleged assault that read, "I know you didn't rape me." CBS News has not been able to independently verify the existence of that text. In a statement today, a lawyer for the alleged victim told CBS News the allegations in this case are that the young teenage victim was raped while she was unconscious. She would therefore have absolutely no knowledge of what was or was not done to her that evening. He added, "A picture speaks 1,000 words." The two players will stand trial on the rape charges next month in juvenile court. Elaine Quijano, CBS News, New York.
It's rocking a small town in Ohio. Two high school football players accused of raping a fellow teenager. And that's not all. Their friends were apparently joking about the whole thing on video and online. We get the story from Ron Allen in Steubenville, Ohio.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Hundreds of protesters converged on Steubenville, demanding justice for a 16-year-old girl allegedly raped by two local high school football stars last August. The two young men, both also 16, are scheduled to stand trial next month, but that doesn't satisfy the crowd. That now includes activists associated with Anonymous, the internet-based group known for hacking into government websites.
And there was more than two kids involved. The kids that have money in this town have not been arrested.
Outrage is growing because of tweets, video, pictures posted on social media from the night in question, apparently showing other partygoers and football players making fun of the female accuser. This picture is believed to show the girl unconscious, being carried by her alleged attackers. There are demands for more arrests and charges of a cover-up to protect the town's beloved football team. The Big Red, a perennial state powerhouse and reason for tremendous pride in a community hit by economic decline.
You can hide no longer.
Some activists have warned they'll release private information about people who they think should be arrested. Local police say they have no evidence to press charges against anyone else. But prosecutors brought in from out of town, because everyone here is so connected and devoted to high school football, now say the investigation continues.
It's well along, but it's not concluded, and it is active, and it's ongoing.
The two defendants have entered pleas of not guilty. A lawyer claims all the information released on social media makes it impossible for the two defendants to get a fair trial.
There's an atmosphere of fear. There's an atmosphere of coercion here.
And there's no sign the demands for justice on the internet, on the streets, will soon end. For today, Ron Allen, NBC News, Steubenville, Ohio.
And Ron is going to have much more on this story tonight on NBC Nightly News. Once again.
Their voices could be heard throughout the afternoon for a second weekend in a row, a second and more organized Occupy Steubenville held this afternoon. Coverage you'll only see right here when 7 News at 11 starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Rachel Durkis. It was round 2 of the Occupy Steubenville movement in downtown Steubenville today. We have continuing coverage starting right now. Hundreds packed the streets to show support for the young victim in an ongoing rape case involving two Steubenville high school football players. Our own Nate Fluharty has a closer look at today's protest and all the emotions behind it.
As Lady Liberty and the scales of justice accented a clear blue sky, below, hundreds gathered to have their voices heard.
We want justice! We want justice!
Signs of support were held high for the victim, the very reason so many attended the second Occupy Steubenville protest.
I just want to make sure that justice is served and show our support for the victim.
You feel like with the turnout today that's being said?
I do. I think it's remained peaceful, everyone's been calm, and that's what we're here to do.
I want to be a part of this. This is going to be a very life-changing moment for Ohio.
At high noon, the masks were out. Most of these protesters, a heated emotion between them and public officials.
It's difficult. If all the people that we have arrested have been convicted.
We lifted the big red rug. We saw the muck, and now we sweep the filth for Jane Doe.
You know, this girl's got a long ride ahead of her. She's got to go to court. They're going to dig, you know, her background up and everything. She's going to be humiliated. That's not fair.
Tears and hugs were also shared when several rape victims in attendance were asked to come together to send a message of solidarity.
Stop it. Never get justice. Please know that we have your back. Come on out here. If you have been assaulted, speak up. It is not your fault.
It is not your fault. We're here for you.
A message that echoed with every sign, every protester, and every mask that was donned this Saturday afternoon.
Now, today's protest not only reached you right here in the Ohio Valley, but people all across the globe. Our WTRF.com live stream reached over 6,000 people in 10 different countries.
The second Occupy Steubenville rally flooded the area surrounding the Jefferson County Courthouse today. This is all in wake of the ongoing teen rape investigation in Steubenville. Thanks for joining us. I'm Philip Stoll. While officers and even undercover BCI agents mixed in with the crowd, the rally was a peaceful one. News 9's Natalie Herbeck has the story.
A sea of people with a peaceful message standing behind a teenage girl at the center of the Steubenville rape investigation. Some holding signs doubting the justice system, others offering up symbolic signs. During the rally, several people took the mic and offered up their thoughts. Some rape victims sharing their stories.
It'll never be okay. She's going to walk around scared just as well as I am, and any other lady in this, or male in this audience that's been through this.
They also allowed Sheriff Fred Abdella to say a few words. He spoke in support of sexual assault victims.
When I came into this office, I made a commitment to myself in 1985 that I would go after those people that have raped or those people that have sexually abused our young children.
But for some in the crowd, no words can convince them that corruption isn't standing in the way of justice.
If you are corrupt, if you commit wrongdoing, you will be found out. There are good officers on the police force. There are real good ones. There are good sheriffs in the sheriff department. Okay, there are good people and there are good kids on that football team. But there is an injustice here. There are lies and injustice and cover-ups. And if you want to do something about it from this point on, start teaching your children to respect life.
Anonymous Fear, who headed the rally, says they've been in contact with the victim and they're respecting her wishes while pushing their cause.
You know, she's saying, don't do this, don't do this. You know, because there's a lot of good people. We're not going to hit everybody. But we have it zeroed in on 2 and 2. And that's how it's going to go. And we're going to keep going. After the media and after the camera gets shut down, we just keep moving.
Well, continuing our team coverage of the teen rape investigation, Steubenville city officials held a press conference for the media today. They discussed the facts of the case, the city's jurisdiction, and the Ohio law transparency of local government. They also debuted a new website set up to establish the facts of the case and explain the role of the city in the investigation. Here's News 9's Brianna Redondo.
Women need to be safe against sexual assault. That lawbreakers will be punished to the fullest extent of the law.
Opening words at a news conference Saturday morning held by city officials to separate fact from fiction in the Steubenville teen rape investigation. A city-funded website called SteubenvilleFacts.org is now in place.
The goal of the site is to provide timely updates of the facts of the case and to provide only accurate information.
Officials explained to local and national media the city is separate from the school district and county sheriff's office, and city leaders deny any cover-up.
Many outsiders think that Big Red Football runs the town. Just as some facts, many of the Steubenville Police Department officers graduated from somewhere else.
I know the main thing now, a lot of people want to know what is being done about this video that has surfaced. Early in the case, during the first week after we were made aware of this incident, we obtained this video. We had witnesses come forward very quickly. That's why we were able to make the 2 arrests of the juveniles that are going to go to trial. You know, there's a lot of accusations out there. Bring me something that we can investigate and prove that this happened.
Questions from media outlets included how protected is this new site from a potential hack?
We have and we are utilizing all of our technology resources available to us, and also utilizing our resources through the state and federal government.
And also if there's a plan moving forward about underage drinking and domestic assault.
And the individuals that are involved in this case, while the court will decide on their guilt or innocence, there is an education process, and we will be working within our community to have that conversation.
Now, the police chief says that his department is limited in resources and officers are investigating incidents of innocent residents being harassed. Councilwoman Angela Suggs says that the city is open and transparent about the facts of the case. Well, new tonight at 11, Jefferson County Prosecutor Jane Hanlon, who recused herself from the case several months ago, is speaking out tonight. She issued this statement to News 9, quote, "My ethical duties as a prosecutor prohibit me from discussing the details of the case involving allegations of rape against 2 local juveniles until the matter has been resolved in court. Once the court proceedings have concluded, I will be able to answer any questions that the public may have, and I have promised to do so. All allegations that me or my son or my home are involved in any way whatsoever in this criminal matter are 100% false. None of the alleged events occurred at my home. My son was not present at any time while the alleged victim alleged to have been unconscious, photographed, videotaped, or sexually assaulted. Any statement to the contrary is 100% false." Well, at the same time of today's rally, another group of people gathered, this time at Jim Wood Parks along John Scott Highway. While they too are against rape and in support of the teenage girl at the center of this investigation, they told us that they're also in support of the youth of Steubenville. We spoke to people who say that children at Steubenville City Schools are being targeted.
We can't even go to functions, sports functions, basketball games, football games, without being harassed, bullied. Not the adults, this is for the children. There's a lot of innocent children that are being labeled as to something that they're not, and they had nothing to do with the event that took place. We're not for anonymous, we're not against anonymous.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's just a bunch of rumors. I think it's people, trying to create controversy to just, I don't know, whatever agenda they may have. They're trying to, make Steubenville make it look out to be some corrupt town. I mean, open your eyes, people. The whole country's corrupt, if you want to look at government and everything. I mean, look at the big picture. I mean, society as a whole has a big problem that we all need to deal with.
Well, I've been getting threats from all around, people that I've never met in my life or seen from different, states, counties, and all that, saying like, oh, you guys need to get murdered, and you guys are terrible people, you're all rapists.
Football players, Steubenville schools, teachers, and supporters were among those in the crowd. Well, tonight, community members, some who were even part of today's rally, gathered again on the steps of the courthouse to have a candlelight vigil for the alleged victim. People who weren't there also lit candles in other places to show their support. We've been on top of this rape case investigation since August. We've reported new information every step of the way, and as the case continues to make national headlines, we're working every source available to make sure that the truth is revealed and that the facts are sorted from fiction. Stick with News 9 for continuing coverage.